Okay, you're ready, sir.
Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. Today is March 15th, 2024. This is the regular quarterly meeting of the Nevada State Board of Agriculture in Sparks. Our first item is the Pledge of Allegiance. Heather, would you care to lead us in that?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Let us now have a moment of silence, silent reflection for those we have lost, or any of your personal losses or issues. Okay, we'll move along to recognize our remote attendees in Las Vegas. Would you introduce yourselves, please?
Paul No, Clark County, representing the nursery industry.
Dave Kuhn, Clark County, representing the dairy industry.
Very good, thank you. And in Elko?
Pete Paris, Elko County, Nevada Wool Growers.
And you're the only one there, Pete?
I'm the only one in the room.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Patricia?
Good morning, Patricia Hoppy, Administrator, Division of Food Nutrition, Department of Agriculture.
Thank you. Do we have anybody else remote?
Bernard Peterson, semi-range beef production. I'm remote today.
Thank you, Bernard. Okay, Heather, would you continue?
Good morning, I'm Heather Lackey. I'm representing Douglas County Pest Control.
Charlie Frey, representing Churchill County and crops.
Valerie Drake, Humboldt County, representing petroleum industry.
Oh, Andrea Nichols, on behalf of I'm representing the Board of Agriculture from the Nevada Attorney General's office.
I'm Jim Snyder from Yerington, Lyon County, representing row crops.
Director JJ Govachia from Eureka, originally Washoe County now.
Doug Ferris, Deputy Director for the Department of Agriculture.
Holly Rincon, Executive Assistant.
Amara Behill, Admin Services Administrator. Brittany Malley, Deputy Administrator, Food and Nutrition.
William Stajewski, Administrator, Division of Measurement Standards.
Megan Brown, Administrator, Plant Health and Compliance.
Will Dawson, Deputy Administrator, Animal.
Chad Sustanovich, Animal Industries Administrator.
Shada Sanjita, Meat and Poultry Inspection Project Manager.
Sierra Russell, Public Information Officer.
Thank you. Okay, roll call. So we've done that.
Yes, let's hit those public.
Okay, would you, starting with you to introduce yourselves.
Nicole Hayes, I'm with American Wildhorse Conservation.
Thank you.
Allison Hinkle, also with American Wildhorse Conservation.
Okay.
Ian Knight, Agricultural Police Officer, Department of Ag. I'm also in the Nevada Farm Bureau. Bureau Personal Farm Engineering.
Dylan Davidson, Senior Trade Officer, Department of Agriculture.
Thank you all for joining us. Anyone else online? Okay. Dave?
Good morning, Jake Tibbetts with Eureka County.
I'm sorry, would you repeat?
Jake wasn't it? Jake.
Okay, thank you. Someone else?
Mr. Chairman, Dr. Menchuk is here. He just stepped out for a moment.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Tracy Wilson with
Anyone
American
else
Wildlife
online, Sierra?
Conservation.
Yeah, you're going to just read them all.
That will help, yes, please.
Leanna Carey,
Yes, I'm sorry. It took me a while to get everything set up. Leanna Carey, Progressive Rancher Magazine.
thank you. Annie, could you please give us your first and last name and what organization you represent?
Hi, my name is Annie Kendrick from the Shannon Gaming.
I'm sorry, one more time.
Shining K Meats.
Thank you. Austin Yowie,
Is she on yours too?
Hi, I'm with the University of Nevada Extensions.
Bells and Case Government Affairs. Could you please state the names of everyone in attendance with you?
Hi, that's actually our scribe. I'm Sabrina Schnur from Bells and Case Government Affairs, and then that's just our AI bot. We are here on behalf of the American Heart Association today.
Thank you. Jeff, could you please state your first and last name and your organization?
Jeff Burns, Nevada Pest Management Association.
Yep. The initials JMK, could you please state your first and last name and organization?
Julia Miller Ketchum, Administrative Assistant, Animal Industry.
Jessica Whitfield, could you please state that you're here? She's Administrative Assistant for reference. Justin Johnson, could you please tell us what organization you're with?
He's the Fallon Livestock Processing, if you can't hear us.
Thank you. Carrie, could you please give us your first and last name and organization?
Carrie Bruff with Bruff Ranch Beef and Elko County Farm Bureau.
Thank you. Karen, could you please give us your first and last name and organization? Karen, if you're unable to unmute, could you please drop your first and last name and organization in the chat, please? Kathy Taylor.
Carson Valley Meats.
Thank you. Nora Hall.
SK Cattle, Winnemucca, Nevada.
Thank you. Wild Bro.
Actually, it's Sherry Bruff with Bruff Ranch.
Thank you. We have a phone number ending in 1402. Could you please press *6, unmute yourself, and give us your first and last name? We are not able to hear you. Could you please give us your first and last name? Okay. And then Heather Freeman just joined. She's still connecting to audio, so I'm not sure that she. Everyone online.
Okay, thank you. And Dwayne, would you care to introduce yourself?
Yes, sorry, I'm running late, but that's normal, I guess. Dwayne Coombs, range and semi-range animal production, Lander County.
Very good, thank you. So we'll move on. Chairman Worthington has resigned from the board, and I am here in his place run the meeting until somebody relieves me.
Hold your breath, Jim.
Is that asking for nominations?
I think that is the next thing. So I think we need to nominate a new chairman and nominations are open.
1 second. Jim,
Chairman.
Andrew. One second, Pete. Richard had recommended that we accept Woody's resignation because this board was in fact the one that had elected him as such. So that is an action item. So I would recommend, Mr. Chair, that you guys accept entertain a motion to accept and act on the resignation of Mr. Worthington.
So moved. Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, thank you. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Woody, for your service here. Sorry to see you move on. So we will reopen nominations for a board chair.
Mr. Chairman, I
Yes.
make a motion to nominate Jim Snyder to replace Woody Worthington as the chairman of the Board of Agriculture.
Thank you. I would strongly recommend that you find somebody better than I for the job. I'm not, my communication skills and multitasking abilities are not that great. So please feel free to nominate someone else. Yeah.
Charlie, I move we close the nomination.
You see that light? It's not the end of the tunnel, it's a train.
Yeah, I recognize that. Okay.
To the second for that.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Okay, thank you. Further discussion?
I move the
All in favor,
nominations be
say
closed.
aye. Pete?
I said I move the nomination be closed.
Okay, nominations are closed. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you all. I'm happy to do my best and may not live up to your expectation.
Win it.
And I will be winging it all along. Okay, I'm sorry. Back to a vote. I asked for all in favor. Were there any opposed? Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to discussion on prescribing rules for the management and government of the Board of Agriculture per NRS 561.105 for possible action. Do we have proposed changes to rules?
This is, Mr. Chairman, if I can, Director Goycochea for the record. Because the statute does not allow for the election of a vice chair, if you guys remember in Elko last fall, you graciously nominated Jim to chair the meeting in the absence of the chair. So that same process needs to take place. Should you not be available to attend the meeting, this board would need to have someone fill in your absence. They would not be the vice chair, but we need to have a continuation of leadership in that role. So that is what Richard and I foresaw when we put this on the agenda, just to make sure that if you can't make a meeting, someone in attendance would take care of that.
Okay, very good. Do we, does anyone have a nomination for that position?
Mr. Chair, this is Bernard Peterson for the record. I nominate Mr. Coons.
Okay, so that's Dave Kuhn, is that right?
Coombs or Kuhn? I didn't understand.
Coon.
From Las Vegas.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We have other nominations.
Clarification,
Mr. Kuhn, go ahead.
that's Dwight, not Dave.
Excuse me.
Okay, Dave Kuhn has been nominated for this informal position.
I
Other
second that.
nominations?
Pete Paris, for the record, I second it.
Further nominations? Okay, we will close. Would somebody care to move to close the nominations?
I'll move to close.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, nominations are closed. So Dave Kuhn will be the substitute chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll be up to see you, Mr. Chairman.
Great. Okay, we'll move on to public comment. I would remind you that public comment is limited to 3 minutes. Please be concise. Do we have any public comment?
There's a table there.
Okay, if you care to give public comment, please step up to the table here in front of the room. Yeah, would you state your name?
Yes, my name is Allison Hinkle. I'm with the American Wild Horse Conservation.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, so good morning, Chair and board members. My name is Allison Hinkle, and I'm the Virginia Range Program Coordinator with the American Wild Horse Conservation. And we wanted to briefly share some good news on the success of the Virginia Range Fertility Control Program. Full births were reduced by 66% in 2023 compared to 2020, which was the first full year of the program. This reduction in full births paired with a high full mortality rate, primarily due to predation, has resulted in more deaths than births and thus negative population growth. With all the pieces of population management working together, such as robust and accurate documentation, the balance of predation and natural attrition, we are seeing population decline in most areas. For example, in the city of Reno interface from Hidden Valley to Geiger Grade, there were only 2 surviving foals from 2022 and 2023 combined. Through meticulous documentation of this area, we have been able to confirm the population within the city of Reno rangeland interface has significantly declined. Additionally, the city of Reno's fencing plan to replace and improve sections of existing fencing, as well as their multi-agency plan to fence a critical area around Geiger Grade, will result in significantly less horse-human conflict. The first 4 years of our Virginia Range Fertility Control Program data was utilized in a novel peer-reviewed study published in the Journal of Vaccines, which concluded fertility control programs in large wild horse herds are both feasible and effective. The same data will be presented at the 39th Annual World Veterinary Association Congress in Cape Town, South Africa in just a few weeks. This conference includes scientists and veterinarians across all disciplines coming together to explore challenges facing not only animal health and welfare, but the environment as well. AWHC has been selected as one of 104 international speakers presenting to the conference of around 1,500 attendees. We'd like to thank you for your continued support of this program and look forward to entering our 6th year. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Further public comment?
Call for online, I guess.
Online, do we have any public comment online?
If you're on the phone and would like to make a comment, you can raise your hand by pressing *9. I see no one.
Okay, Heather Hall.
So this is for comments regarding the changes to the chapter 583, right?
So Heather, this is Director Goycochea. That hearing is embedded within this agenda. It will be at the end of this agenda. If you wish to give public comment now, you may, but we will go over step line by line, those recommended changes during an actual hearing at the end of this meeting.
Okay, I can comment during that period.
Thank you, Heather. Sorry, Jim.
Oh, thank you. Other comment? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the minutes of the December 8th meeting. I will entertain a motion when you're ready to approve.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adopt the minutes as stated.
I second that.
Any discussion on the minutes? Correction? Seeing none, are you ready to vote? Please say aye. Approve by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. The minutes are approved. Board reports, industry reports from board members. We'll start in Las Vegas. Mr. Kuhn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think that quite often when we're asked to report on our industry, at the conclusion of our remarks, we always recognize and give credit to the Department of Agriculture for their oversight of the industry within the state. We are fortunate that we have someone that keeps everyone on the right track, especially under current conditions where there are such challenges in the dairy industry. Beginning with production right at the dairy farm, the source of our, the beginning of our industry, to the receiving, processing, packaging, and distribution, and even sales and marketing, to make sure that everyone is playing by the same rules, same set of rules, and they're all designed to keep the industry healthy and to ensure the public that they receive the product that they're deserving of. So again, we are grateful for the standards that are in place and that govern us, for the inspections and the enforcement that is there for everyone within the industry, to keep the industry moving forward. One issue that maybe might be of interest to everyone, in mid-December, there was a bill that passed through the House of Representatives in Washington that would allow school districts to serve the children whole and 2% milk. And that passed by a wide margin, bipartisan margin in the House, but then stalled in the Senate. So that has not come to fruition, but the industry is hopeful that it can come up for discussion again and give those kids something that's more nutritious as well as enjoyable to drink. So that is a development in our industry. We continue to face all those challenges that everyone else does in all of your various parts of the industry as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kuhn. Mr. No.
Yes, well, I definitely agree with Mr. Kuhn's statement about the support for the department. We're very appreciative of that. Working with them together has been a real pleasure over the years. We're glad to have help to keep everybody uniform and even balance on the markets and the products that we sell. Actually, our business has actually been fairly well this year. It's been very consistent, equal to or a little bit higher than last year. The only problems that immediate problems that we have that we're working with right now is just a lack of nursery product that is grown in California and Arizona by the major growers coming into our area seems that the weather has slowed down production a bit, and because sales are up fairly well, that we're having a hard time keeping up with restocking nurseries. But that seems to be a problem this time of year about every year. So we're dealing with it as best we can. So other than that, have no other comments.
Thank you. Mr. Ferris.
Yes, I attended the National Wool Growers Convention and everybody was pretty optimistic about the sheep industry right now. Most of the ranchers are pretty happy. We've had a really good winter. The weather conditions couldn't hardly be better. The deserts have been about the prettiest I've ever seen them. The prices seem to be holding right now. About the only hiccup I really seen is some people trying to shut down slaughter plants in the Denver area was quite a big concern. They have a pretty good sized facility there for meat processing and stuff, and they are really trying hard to get rid of that. That was a little bit scary. The predator control seems to be doing quite well. Nevada Department of Ag, I think, has got a handle on getting good employees and working together with the federal side of it. So I think that's a looking up. In Nevada itself, we have a couple lawsuits going on that most of the producers in the state are still kind of nervous about, trying to get them thrown out. That's still up in the air. If they do go unfavorably, it will be a huge devastation for the state of Nevada wool growers. So other than that, everybody's starting to shear. Shearers seem to be coming in on time, and just hoping for some good weather to have a good lamb crop. Well, that's about all I have from Nevada wool growers.
Thank you, Pete. Mrs. Lackey.
Morning, Heather Lackey for the record. So mostly change and weather are the two words for me right now, because we certainly cannot control the weather, and change is right. It is. We've had, last year was such an interesting year with that 8-year winter that we had. And now we have this brand new beginning, and I am so thrilled about the change. I'm thrilled about our logo. Love it. There were some concerns definitely about the neonic situation that we had going on. And there were a few companies that talked about a lot of the issues that they were having with that. And some of that's starting to get narrowed out, which is good. And I'm just so excited about the change, because our weather has so much to do with pests, and so much of our industry closes down because of the weather. It's cold, it gets quiet. And now it's that brand new composition book and everything is ready to be started. Change, so excited. Ready for it. So always excited. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. I assume you mean positive change.
Absolutely positive change, yes. There's nothing else for us.
We would have heard, but otherwise.
Mr. Frey.
Charlie Frey from Fallon, representing the farmers in Fallon. And what I see right now is kind of a lot of anxiety, because the farmers are getting ready and preparing their tax returns for 2023. And some of them, their budgets that they prepared for 2023, they're not quite up to snuff, because the cost and the inflation of the ingredients that goes into producing anything has risen substantially more than some of the income that they're generating. So that's about the only major problem that I see. I think all the farms are doing pretty well, and crops and water and flood irrigation, and it looks like most of the plants or new crops have been planted. I especially the grain crops, what I'm referring to. And they look pretty healthy. Thank you. Yes, Mrs. Drake.
Valerie Drake, representing the petroleum industry. I agree with you. Everything's looking really good. I've been pre-selling fuel like crazy to the ag side. Everybody's getting ready and they seem happy about it. Unfortunately, prices have been going up a little bit. There's been shortage problems through the winter, which has been different for northern Nevada. So look that it may continue even worse in the spring and summer. So hopefully our director can keep an eye on this.
Probably to fix the price.
Yeah. Make sure they're keeping fuel going. Keep the pipeline
Bill.
going.
What are you doing over there?
What's going on?
Little guy.
That has nothing to do with it.
Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Mr. Coombs.
Yes, Dwayne Coombs for the record. I'm Lander County range and semi-range animal production. Most of northern, northeastern Nevada, I mean, our snowpack looks really well. I think rubies are above average. East Humboldts are above for snowpack. And like I said, we had a beautiful winter as far as those of us who winter out on the desert. What a fantastic winter, especially after coming out of the nightmare we had a year ago. I see lots of hay stacks, which is a double-edged sword. And for those guys that are producing hay, trying to sell hay, it might be a tough year for them. I don't know how much movement there's going to be on that hay market. Those of us that have to buy that hay to feed it, it works out well. But the other things that that are kind of on the minds of folks out in my neck of the woods are, we're upcoming on a fire season. That is a little concerning. This as always, we had a banner year for cheatgrass last year, and it looks like we're going to have another good one this year. So we've got in some cases, 2-year-old fuel that's very dry, that's going to be pretty flammable. So we need to be cognizant of that. I talked this morning to one of our ag police officers, and it sounds like there's some movement on our PERS issue with some of those folks. Doug, thank you so much for doing that. Anything else that we need to do to keep that moving forward, those guys really appreciate that. The other thing that's exciting to me is a couple of weeks ago, Megan and I were able to go to a stakeholder gathering for the Great Basin Research Laboratory here in Reno. And, they've got some new leadership there starting to revitalize that lab. For those of us that rely on that research coming out of USDA and UNR, that is such a valuable thing. And I think that I so appreciate having Megan there to talk for the department. And the other, just a couple other kind of worrisome things that I see. I worry about, we're really seeing, especially on BLM. I know BLM's coming out with the renewable, some solar stuff. Those big solar projects really concern me on the desert. I don't know what we're going to do 25 years from now when we have these massive 2 and 3 section solar fields that are obsolete. We all know how hard it is to rehab desert country. And I think we're being a little short-sighted as a society as to what that cost is gonna be down the road. That's worrisome. The only other thing in closing that you know, kind of harp on my you know, and I know that we've got some things here. Just farmers and ranchers in general across the US are 3.5 times more likely to die from suicide than the general population. And so as a department, that's something that we need to, these folks have a lot of stress on them. And we're kind of a funny society, the ag people. And so how do we help ourselves, help one another, help our neighbors? And just throwing that out there, just want to raise that awareness. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's what we're.
Okay, yes. Dave, Paul, can you mute your microphone, please? I think we're getting feedback.
The microphones are pretty sensitive down there, and we're hearing you guys. Just, I think it's traffic on the street and everything else.
Thank you. Okay, I will continue with the Lyon County report. Lyon County vegetable business is doing well. Everybody's gearing up for planting. Onion growers have just finished up with a record-setting marketing year, price-wise. Very good year. Other things are going more or less according to normal. Our snowpack is okay, a little bit below normal, I think, on the Walker. I'm not sure of the Truckee and Carson rivers. 100% on the Truckee and Carson. So it's been a decent water year. The big negative from a hay producer's standpoint is that market. It has been a big hit on the budget, on the budget that Charlie mentioned. So hay growers hope for better times ahead. That's all I have. Okay, Bernard, can we get your report, please?
Good morning. This is Bernard Peterson, for the record, representing semi-range beef production in Eastern Nevada. And as some of you have said, the range conditions and precipitation or snowpack conditions are either average or above average in Eastern Nevada. And so we anticipate a pretty good green up, pretty good spring. As some of you have said, the commodity markets have been a little soft in our areas. Trying to move alfalfa has been a bit of a headache, but it's actually picked up in the last 45 days here locally. We've moved a pretty large amount of export hay going to Long Beach. So it's picking up. It's not the market isn't strong, but it's better than it was 3 months ago. The markets that are strong here locally and across the nation is the beef market. Both calves, feeders, and fat steers leaving the feedlot. Unless they've paid too much for them going in last fall, they are all making money. And so this is a positive thing for the state of Nevada and the beef industry. I realize that we've seen a pretty significant contraction in the beef numbers in the state of Nevada. You know, I think you can ask the director, but we're probably under 250,000 total females in the state of Nevada right now. So there's some real opportunity for some growth and expansion if those females can be found in the chain. And you know, conditions are good, and maybe some of the Nevada growers will have the opportunity to do some expansion. And it looks like that expansion could be very positive growth for another 2 to 4 years. You know, looking across the industry as a whole, it looks very good. So, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on, director's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I traditionally do, you guys can read. You have it in front of you. I'll just hit on a few high points. open it for questions. One of the things I hate about these reports is that we're not idle. So we give you guys a report and a lot of things happen in 10 days or 2 weeks after we wrote the report. So you might not see some of this in there, and that's why I want to touch on it. First, I want to thank Allison for their comments. Just one on that fertility control. That is definitely something that we are continuing on there. And the reason I want to mention her and segue into that is the fencing. We are actively involved in that. Mr. Sustinovich may give an update on that later, but we are trying to help the city of Reno, Washoe County, Carson City, Lyon County, BLM. We're looking at some disrepair in this Virginia range and trying to eliminate as much as we can those public impacts that we're seeing from horses that are straying off the range into town. We have urban sprawl. We know we have urban sprawl. I don't see that slowing down. All you gotta do is look around at the 2x6s that are driving up and down the street. We know they're going somewhere. So we're going to continue to work on that, actively engaged. One thing on here, you see that I met with the NRCS. I do want to mention we have a new state conservationist in the state. We did meet with her last week before. They're starting to run together, hoping to kind of rekindle that. So our producers out there, no matter what you are, we can kind of be a conduit to the Natural Resource Conservation Service, NRCS, and make sure that there's a lot of dollars out there that we tend to send back. We don't want to send them back. We are actively engaged in getting more of those dollars on public lands. Megan met with her 3 or 4 days after I did. And so she got the 1-2 punch that we expect to do things differently. Staffing is a problem for them. We understand that. I want everyone to know, take it back to your industries. If you're having a hard time getting to our federal partners, getting an answer for them, come to us. We will go to that leadership. We will get those answers for you. We will help you with those applications as much as possible. We don't have the programs, but we know who do. And so we will work with that. Fallon Training Range Complex. I am the chair of that oversight committee now on behalf of the state of Nevada and the Department of Agriculture. There are grazing allotment retirements pending there. So that is something that you livestock guys want to keep an eye on. That's a private party, private interaction, but there are appraisals being done on those ranches. Those first few allotments for the Bureau of Reclamation and the BLM, they've got about 15 months, and there could be a record of decision signed and those allotments are no longer valid. There will be no permits on them. So it does have the potential to kind of set a value on some of these public land ranches, predominantly winter ranches, because that's what's around Fallon. So everybody keep an eye on that and see what's going on. We are serving kind of as a moderator for that, making sure we have the right people at the table at the right time and helping those guys as much as possible just to gather the information they need. If they need a second appraisal, encouraging them to go out and get that. The Navy has been decent to work with at this point, but they have a pool of money that they must spend. As they get their buckets, they have 5 years to spend those. That clock is ticking. So they've got to have some of those ranges open for training. And that means that some of these cows are going to have to go away, unfortunately. So finding replacement forage, as Dwayne knows, is hard. Finding replacement ranchers is even harder. So we're trying to help them. Bernard mentioned cattle expansion. He's absolutely correct. That is something we are keeping an eye on as an agency as well. We're at 1951 levels nationwide. Yeah, it's a great time for expansion. Unfortunately, last year, we didn't have the hay prices last year that we have this year. And we had a record winter. So those guys put a lot of money into keeping those cows alive, as we all know. And so they're still trying to climb out from under debt. While we would love to see more heifer retention and to grow that herd in Nevada, the economics of it haven't played out to this point. I've been working a lot with Dylan as we're looking at our economic analysis and that expansion. And we're working with our federal partners on that. We're just not seeing it yet. We have not turned that corner. Heifer placements are still down. And again, that's a matter of economics. They've got to pay those bills. They've got to pay those high interest loans off. Valerie talks about fuel. Interest rates are high right now too. Operating loans, these guys are willing to sell more of those heifers to sit those loans back, if you will. So that's something we're seeing. One thing you guys may not have tracked, and I'm going to go ahead and pick it up today because our veterinary representative on the board isn't here, and that was some proposed xylazine legislation. I know that Dr. Schenk, him and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago. There is a move to list xylazine as a Schedule III drug that is actually going to go through legislation instead of rulemaking. They were afraid of DEA and FDA and what those rules may look like. So those of you that don't know what xylazine is, it's a common name of wampum, used a lot in food animal medicine and equine medicine, and we prescribe it a lot, especially calving time. If you need to sedate a cow, if you need to sedate a horse, something like that, we do prescribe that as veterinarians out to clients. If it becomes a Schedule 3, every drop of that must be accounted for and logged at the veterinary practice. Traditionally, those Schedule 3s then are also tracked at the prescription at the owner level. We have a lot of herdsmen. We have a lot of caretakers that take care of livestock in the state that aren't owners. Our concern was, are we having to keep that log? We tend to do 50 cc vials, 50 milliliter vials at a time that go out the door. If I got to give some to Dwayne, then is he going to have to track that? Is it come back on me if he doesn't? So this legislation actually allows those caretakers to have that. They can use it on the herd as whole, and it kind of alleviates some of that concern. It's unfortunate that we're here as a society, but we are. The reason we have to regulate xylazine, and Catherine Cortez Mastos, Senator Mastos, the one leading the charge on this, is because it is now being used to cut illegal fentanyl. And so we are seeing deaths. While you can reverse fentanyl with naloxone, there is no readily available for human reversal for xylazine. And the last study they did, 17% of the xylazine found in fentanyl was diverted from veterinary practices at some point. So it's unfortunate that we're there, but we are. So keep that in mind. You will see some prescription drug changes as you work with your veterinarian. It is going to impact agriculture. I'm not going to tell you it's not. The senator worked really hard with us on that. I still don't like it, but I understand that's where we have to go. And I think it's the least bitter of the pills to take, no pun intended at this point. Just a couple more things, Mr. Chair. A couple of weeks ago, we did meet with the Joint Interim Standing Committee on Natural Resources. Brittany and myself and Patricia all participated there. That was dealing a lot with our food distribution, predominantly Home Feeds Nevada. That's been a great program, and I'm not going to steal the thunder. I'm going to let them talk about it a little bit. But I will say that, you know, we are committed to trying to continue that program, and however we need to. We have spent it'll be $4 million by the time we're done. We'll say that. I don't want to accurately claim where we are today, because like I said, we're not stagnant, so invoices are coming in and going out. But that has been a good program for our small producers. State budget bill starts now. Amara will get into that. This next week, we will be submitting our funding request to our federal delegations on some things. Mormon crickets are obviously something we're looking at, trying to get some more financing as well, some more revenue to continue to help with our Virginia range horses. That's ideally where we would like to go. And EID tags, and I'll let Chad and those guys talk about that if they wish, but the the USDA, we're expecting a rule at the end of the month on the use of EID tags instead of bright tags in cattle. That'll go into effect 6 months after it hits the Federal Register. So we could be looking at the need for EID tags in October. The funding bills that did pass Congress did give us $15 million nationwide for EID tags last couple of weeks ago. It's not enough. We need 26.1 million just to tag the cows in the country today that we know of that will be subject to the new rule at 18 months and over. So we are submitting an additional funding request through our delegation, asking for other states in the nation to sign on to that so we can try to get some more money for that. Sage grouse. I don't know, Megan, were you going to talk about that today?
I was, but you can go ahead.
Megan will talk about sage grouse. Renewable projects. Dwayne, we hear you. Ms. Brown and I probably spend more time on the computer and in meetings than we really should allow, but we are. That's what we're doing. On wind, on solar, on right-of-ways, and you are right. It is very concerning. Know that we are meeting it head on. We're trying to make sure that they're put into places that make the most sense and with the less impact on agriculture that they can. The state has been very good to that end and very supportive. And we have sent multiple letters, multiple sets of comments on those kind of projects. And the one large wind project in Nevada, they did elect to suspend that permitting and seeking permitting on that project. And that was a lot because of the joint work of NDOW and us and DCNR. That was a wrong place for a project of that magnitude. We hear you. One last thing, any of you guys, you know my number, you got Holly's number, you got my email. If you need something, reach out sooner rather than later. We are trying to do our best to we want to step on these fires sooner so they don't get big and out of control. So with that, Mr. Chair, I'll rest for questions, and anything you guys read in my report you have questions on, feel free.
Any questions for Director Goicoechea? Okay, if not, we'll move on to administrative services. Tamara?
I'll let Doug talk first.
Oh, okay.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. So I actually took the first portion of this. This is a shout out and I guess kind of a bragging session as far as I'm concerned on some of the NDA staff. They did an amazing job. So we launched the new Nevada entry permits online portal. It actually was released to a select few veterinarians back in December. And then as of March now, it's open to all veterinarians. And just for a little backstory on how we got here. So ever since both the director and I have been here, our entry permits program is basically that people have to either call in or email veterinarians from out of state wanting to import livestock into Nevada. We'll email that to staff or call them, and then it's a long process. Sometimes it may take 2 weeks because our staff's requesting what they need in order to allow those animals in and meet the entry requirements. So we've wanted to change this for a long time. We didn't have the funding to do it. So we kind of had the vision a long time ago. And that's kind of segues in then to where about 18 months ago, I actually applied for the Nevada Certified Public Managers Program. I was accepted in that. And so as part of that, there's a capstone project that you have to do, basically for the end of it to show it's a leadership and management program. And so working with the director, we both chose that we would update the online entry permits program. I may or may not have had a different program before the director came and that one got changed, but so we went this way. But the most amazing thing to me is I was able to bring this back and all I had was a vision of what we wanted and what we'd like to see. And we did it completely in-house without any outside funding. And all of our IT staff, our program staff worked with all of us. And we did this for probably the last, I'd say almost 6 months. We worked on this project and our IT staff completely built this program, this platform. You can now get on your phone, laptop, iPad, any type of electronic device, as long as you have a internet connection. A veterinarian can get on there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, upload whatever information they need to complete their information in there and generate their own permit. There's no worry about Saturdays, Sundays, after hours. We find a lot of them will get an email at 7 o'clock at night. Our staff's not back in until 8 o'clock the next morning, but it was amazing that in-house, we were able to do this and launch it, and especially in that short amount of time. If our IT manager was here, he'd be looking at me sideways because he wasn't exactly happy with my timeline of this. But the fact that somebody can get on and do that now, and like I say, it's live, they can do it. It doesn't matter where they are in the country, they can get on there, generate their own permit and get livestock moving. So basically, I just wanted to really thank our staff and appreciate what they were able to do. And it's a huge advancement for Nevada and for the department. So.
Can I do one do over?
Yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry. And she just slapped me for it because she came on after the last board meeting. I acknowledge Miss Brown, Wayne acknowledged Miss Brown, but she is now the full-time official tiara wearing administrator of plant health and compliance. So thank you, Megan. I did not mean to look past that. We appreciate you taking that step up. You know, she came to the agency before I did the first time, and it's well deserved. And we're in good hands over there, and we're trying to hire her some help as we speak for a deputy. So thank you, Megan. I apologize for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have other questions for Doug. Thank you, Doug. Are you telling me that we have an influential director?
He was influential enough that when I said, this is what I'm looking at for a process improvement, and he said, no.
Short conversation.
Yeah, so I came up with a new idea.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Chair, just to comment on what Doug's talking about, just this is fantastic. With a college student that in Montana that calls on a Saturday afternoon and says, Dad, I'm bringing horses home tonight. And I can call my vet, or she can call her vet, and we can get that stuff taken care of. And within 15, 20 minutes, she's got a permit and she can come home legally. Bring those horses back into the state, make sure that they're correct. That's fantastic. Thank you.
And I'll just add on to that because you're talking about time. So one thing I missed there is Julia, who oversees the entry permits desk for us here at the department. She actually did a test, and once you've uploaded your information as a veterinarian, she was able to generate a permit in 3 to 5 minutes just off the computer. So that's
Perfect.
Yeah,
Very good.
customer service.
So would you say that feedback is real universally positive?
I think so far, I think we're still kind of in the infancy. I mean,
Okay.
basically it just launched in March for everybody. So I know our staff is happy with it. They were previously using telephone, email, and an access database.
So welcome to the 21st century.
Let's not get carried away. We'll get to the 21st in the next 100. We're on 100 behind today.
Okay. Very good. Are you next, Amon?
I am next.
Okay.
All right, I'll just highlight a few of our activities and administration. March is Nutrition Month as proclaimed by Governor Lombardo. So NDA and other agencies within the state will be doing some nutrition program education and awareness. We did do the Food and Beverage Small Business of the Year Award, which was presented to Blue Lizard during our craft beverage presentation in I believe it was January. We do have an upcoming trade mission in South Korea. Dylan will be going down there and representing us for some economic development down there. We do still have our monthly newsletter and industry updates if anybody wants to get a sign up for that. And then our ag literacy program participated in some great events, numerous events actually, but we did the Youth Wildlife Conservation Experience, Wells High School Career Fair in February, and then they have an upcoming one with career development and leadership in March of 25, or on March 25th, sorry. And then I will get into my better area, fiscal. So we did kick off the budget build on March 6th. So that means we met with GFO and they gave us their direction on how to build the budget. This year it's based on the second year, which means it's based on FY25 numbers, which is interesting because we don't have FY25 numbers as of yet, but we do have a base budget for that. So we will build in our actuals of 24 into 25 and then do our enhancements or whatever improvements. If we want additional positions, we go in and ask for an enhancement on that and any other programs that we have. So we're hoping to build a really good budget that's more geared towards the agricultural industry and customer service in that area. I do have a budget presentation on, I did our admin budget and I also did our animal disease or veterinary medical services one. So I will share that with you guys. And I did include the numbers so you guys have them. So right now, admin services, we have 31 full-time employees. We do have additional employees that are budgeted in other accounts, but they work strictly for admin. So some of our accounting professionals and some of our IT professionals are budgeted out of other budget accounts, but they do work for admin services. We do have 7 contract employees. A majority of those are funded by American Rescue Plan Act. Those do expire at the end of June. We do have one that expires at the end of December, so that will no longer be an expense on our record. This is our general fund. I'm sorry, this is our revenue. So we are mostly cost allocated. We do have that ARPA funding that comes in. It funds a portion of our building maintenance, we got a one-shot appropriation for building maintenance through the ARPA fund, so that we could update some of our buildings that were leaking, drain roof, correct our HVAC, update our lighting in our parking lots. We had, I think, 75% of our lighting in our parking lots throughout all of our buildings were out, so we updated that. And then our meat inspection program is also funded for the beginning of it until we move into a fee-based meat inspection program. We also have expenses. It's about the same that you will see. You'll see some of the ARPA meat inspection program here and the buildings repairs. Those both expire at the end of this fiscal year, which is June. So that will no longer be in there. But most of this is where the Nevada Board of Agriculture is also funded. We do have our conferences and economic promotions in here as well. So the Animal Disease Laboratory, or veterinary medicine, sorry, has 7 full-time employees. Most of them are directed towards animal disease laboratories, our microbiologist, our animal disease laboratory, and then our administrator and our deputy administrator, which is new to fiscal year 2024, are partially funded out of this budget account. They are primarily fee-based. They do have one grant in here for the feral and the stray horses. It sounds like we're anticipating that going. The transfer from federal ARPA was actually to cover required time off for employees. They reimbursed us through federal ARPA in 23. So there should be no anticipated cost going forward. This is basic. You can see we get our feral and stray horse. And you can see we actually have actuals up to February 15th, and then our anticipated FY25 budget. This is what our base year will be, and then we can add on to that budget for the next year. Any questions?
Questions for Amara? Okay, very good, thank you.
You want to touch on real quick our rebrand, our logo?
Yes, sorry about that. We did rebrand our logo. It was effective Monday. It's a pretty awesome logo, so we will be updating uniforms as they become needed for replacement for budget. And then everything else that we do, we will be updating as we go. So we have new logos on our websites, new logos on all of our good stuff. And you can see in the presentation, we had some nice cool logos.
Along those lines, the young lady at the end of the table down there, she was ready to hang Doug and I by our fingernails over these logos. I know she was, but Sierra, it's very much appreciated. It has been very, very positively received. And as Amara said, I want this board to know we're not throwing things away and going with a new logo. We're phasing this in. I'm frugal. If it can still run, it runs. Ask me, I got first gen Dodges on the ranch still. They may or may not run, but we feed with them. Same thing's going to be with the logo. You guys will see the old logo eventually get traded out, but it's not going to cost a bunch of money to the industry or the taxpayers of Nevada as we pull this rebrand off. And she made me sound smart, so I just want to read this for the board because Sierra actually did this quote for me about this logo. From the mountains to rangeland, crops to livestock, we hope this new logo is a reflection of everything we represent in Nevada on our dedication to preserve, protect, and promote Nevada agriculture. And that's why we did what we did. It was time for a new start, change, as Heather said. And we no longer look like California and Washington's logo. We are Nevada. It's waters, it's crops, it's mountains, it's sun, and that's what we're here to do. And yes, meat and poultry shade it for you. We didn't put them on. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
And
Thank you for your work on this. So food and nutrition is next. Patricia, are you doing that?
I am. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. You have our report in front of you, so I'll also just point out some highlights to make note of. A quick reminder that one of our really popular highlight programs is the Senior Farmers Market Nutrition Program. This is our coupon book program for eligible seniors where they can purchase fresh produce, honey, things like that at roadside stands and farmers market with coupons. It's federally funded. That is getting ready to start. It will start in Southern Nevada in May, and it will start in Northern Nevada in June. We are in the process of getting all of our materials together, lining up farmers, getting our coupons printed. So we're getting ready for the rollout, and then we also have training that will be done before that starts with our partner organizations and our farmers. So if you have the opportunity to talk that program up, we would appreciate it. We have state ARPA funding, as many other divisions do. We are working hard to get our state ARPA funding spent down. One of these that I'd like to highlight is the Nevada Community Food Access Grant Round 1, which is under our food distribution program here. As an update, we have 3 of 6 sub-awardees that have completed their projects and fully expended their funding. So we're moving along with that one. For the expansion grant of that, what we call round 2, we're up to 1.6 million. At this point, we're a little bit over that of 6 million that has been expended, and we're really working with those sub-awardees to keep them on track and get spending plans and get reports monthly so we can get those projects done and funds spent. Home Feeds Nevada, as Director Gokachia pointed out, one of our favorite popular programs. For this period, what we have is from October 1st to December 31st, which is Q2. We've procured approximately 517,000 pounds of locally grown and processed foods across the state and distributed them. That purchasing power looks like over 1.2 million. Just a little sneak peek into the funding, because I know we talk about this every meeting, that we do have funding cliffs coming for this program, and we are continuing to look for new funding sources. At this point, with our funding, with our state ARPA funding, we are well over 1.2 million that we spent for the state ARPA funding. We're really trying to focus on that. That is one that tentatively has a funding cliff 6/30/24. We're trying to get that spent down as quickly as possible. And then with the local food purchase assistance program that is federally ARPA funded directly from the USDA, we are well over 2.5 million in funding spent for that. We intend to apply for a no-cost extension for our grant for that with USDA from Agriculture Marketing Services. We feel pretty certain we will have that approval. That will extend that funding source into 12/30/24, which gives us a little bit of breathing room, but we are still looking for funding sources to keep Home Feeds Nevada going and keep that program successful. We are continuing to bring on additional producers every month. So as we've mentioned before, help us talk that program up. If you find out about any funding sources, feel free to point out and let us know so that we can keep that going. You can see our community nutrition highlights and our school nutrition highlights that we submit our statistics for every quarter. I'd also like to point out, I don't see it on here, we have a farm to school grant that received 850,000 for last year from USDA. We have a project coordinator that we were able to hire a contract for 3 years. We're really trying to build a more successful farm to school program. We are working on developing a network, a statewide network for our farm to school program, something that we've never had at NDA. It's been more event-based. So with this funding over 3 years, we're really trying to make it more sustainable and put some permanent things in place. And one of those is that farm to school network. We're also building a stakeholder list. We're putting together a network interest survey that we will be sending out that you will probably see, where we're trying to bring on people across the state where we can really have a pretty powerful and experienced network that can build a framework here in the department for that program. I wanted to highlight that because we missed it on the list. And with that, I'll close. Does anybody have any questions?
Questions for Patricia? Okay. Very good. Thank you, Patricia. And, okay. Let's take a 5-minute break right now, please.
Sorry,
We'll
Bill.
return.
You sweat.
Quite all right.
We counted your pages, and it's not gonna work. There's some fuel concerns in this room.
I need to talk about.
Yeah.
So do they know you're in the other room?
Yeah, they can see who's on.
Okay. What did it, could you hear us?
I didn't hear that much, but I don't know. Maybe if you're wrestling.
It was probably just wrestling with my papers, separating them. I got a lot of duplications of the paperwork here. I don't know. It wasn't sorted out very well, so I was just trying to get it all in order.
Together sometime.
Dave, can you hear me? It's Leanne. I can hear everything you're saying. I can't hear you now. Can you hear me? I can't hear you now, but I certainly could hear you guys talking about the problem of the rustling of the pages and stuff. Okay, I'm gonna mute myself now.
Hey, Dr. Pete, it's Scott with IT. If you ever are wondering if you're muted or not, you can look at the ceiling. The black pucks up there, if they have a red ring, you're muted. If they have a white ring, you're unmuted.
IT, it's Leanne. Mine is just a slash across mute, or the red slash, it's gone.
Yes, I'm referring to their specific like, physical room. They have
Oh,
mechanisms in the ceilings.
I'm not trying to override you, IT.
Oh, no, no worries.
Okay, and thank you.
Thank you.
Maybe you guys just do whatever.
Okay, we'll call a meeting back to order. Next item is measurement standards. Bill?
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. As the director said, you have my report in front of you. I'm just going to highlight a few things, but if you have questions about things that I don't address, let me know. On LCB file R070-22, a meeting was held on Tuesday of this week before Director and State Sealer Goycochea. Teleconferenced from this room to the other offices and available to the public online and via phone. One individual from industry attended, asked several questions, and he appeared to be satisfied with the answers, and there were no suggested changes to the draft file. So at that time, the state sealer approved those changes as adopted by this agency, and I am now preparing the packet to go to the Legislative Commission for final approval and enactment. Efforts are continuing and appear to be in a positive direction in terms of improving our communication with the livestock industry as we approach livestock scale inspection season. You know, we've really worked to improve our messaging to the industry and to get more contact information from those members. The more ways we have to contact them, the easier it will be to provide that information. With the help of the communications folks, Sierra and Melanie, we put together an online form that can be filled in. It can be reached either through the department website or through a QR code that was included in a letter that we sent to all the ranchers in our database. And to date, we received about 140 responses to that. So we've still got a ways to go, but it's a lot farther than we were last year, for example. We're going to continue to try and push that messaging through different channels, including the Farm Bureau and Cattlemen's Association and Department social media and face-to-face when we're out in the field this year during the season. So, you know, hopefully we can bring that number of responses up significantly. And the annual letters that go to the ranch owners will be going out via mail and email mid-April for an anticipated start to scale inspections, well, late May, first week in June, as a Memorial Day. That sort of skews the start schedule just a bit. I mentioned in the metrology program update that the lab was preparing for their NAVLAP certification. That has now been scheduled for the end of this month. It'll be March 27th through 29th. And just to add a little bit more detail, the lab submits certification paperwork to the organization every year, but the on-site visits only happen every other. And so this is one of those odd years. And that is actually a plus to the program. Some labs that are NAVLAP certified have annual on-site visits, but because of the quality of our program, they have said we don't have to come every year, we only have to come every 2. So they're doing really, really good work, very high quality in that lab. In January, we attended the National Conference on Weights and Measures interim meeting, and so I'll actually, go through a few of those things. One new task group that was, or focus group that was started was for metrology, and 15 or 20 states were represented in that, talking about their programs and some of the concerns and challenges that we all have. And whether, they're all pretty similar. The first one was that NAVLAP certification will now It's still being negotiated, but may or may not be, the fees may or may not be augmented or paid by NIST, National Institute on Standard and Technology, which is causing some states to look at other certifying agent associations. And that's difficult because NAVLAP is really the gold standard. So, but they're also the most expensive. So that's still sort of ongoing. States like, we have 2 metrologists. We have a head metrologist and a junior metrologist. Many states are like us with 1, 2, maybe 3. Few states have much bigger programs. But so succession is very important. Succession, training, filling those positions. If you lose your metrologist, if they leave the state or retire, what they're certified for goes with them. So the new person has to be trained, it has to show their competence before the lab can perform at the same level. And that takes time, years. And so there's continuing talk about, not sharing resources, but being able to maybe send metrologists, a new metrologist to a different state to accelerate some of that training. Also at the NCWM meeting, in terms of petroleum technology, the agenda only had a couple of items that were at all relative to petroleum and fuel, and neither of these are really big for Nevada at this time. I can go into them if there are questions, but if not, I'll just keep going. On the weights and measures front at the NCWM meeting, they always have a very large agenda. Some of it is very, very small changes, et cetera. The ones that are probably of more interest and larger are potential changes to the automatic weighing code, weighing in motion, which is both fascinating and difficult. Many items around electric vehicle fueling systems. And, these will all be important as we work towards testing EV testing units. I had mentioned a couple meetings that we held on, backyard sales of diesel, and I'm working with the NHP on unlawful use of red dye diesel. There's been a whole lot more movement on this. It started as one meeting and split into sort of 2 different concerns. In the past, the petroleum program had helped, at least in an ancillary way, with the NHP when they would have evidence of unlawful use of red dye diesel. We weren't doing any lab testing, but we had the facilities to hold their evidence. In speaking to a gentleman from the NHP, though, he said that many of the folks, going back up to when I had hair, many of the folks on the NHP end who had been part of the program have retired. So they have to figure out exactly how they want this to work. So there might be more on this at some point in the future. With the backyard sales, obviously that's a big concern. Basically, the background is that with a stolen credit card and trucks with false bottoms and additional tankage, lawbreakers can get a supply, which they then just set up in carboys wherever. And when there's reports, including in neighborhoods. So when say Metro or Reno police hear about it, they can act on it, but it doesn't stop it. And so meeting with DMV and environmental protection, who takes care of tanks, storage tanks, we all have a little piece of jurisdiction, but not enough to really act on it. So again, this is in progress, unfortunately. As I said, our interim finance committee had approved our request to buy a number of vehicles that had been long overdue and had been part of budgets that hadn't been able to be procured by Fleet Services, and currently working with state purchasing on the bids, and hopefully we can satisfy those bids soon. And I think I'll close with that and take questions that you have. Thank you.
Questions for Bill? Okay, thank you, Bill. Sounds good. Plant health and compliance. Megan?
Megan Brown for the record, and I do want to say I'm excited to take this new role and look forward to having some support in a deputy and help bring my industry forward with some change. So to your theme, I'll go through my report and then I'll add some supplemental things. As to your point, Dwayne, about fires and the need for seed and restoration, the department continues to work not only with our private collectors, but with our federal partners on seed and source identification for wildland collected seed. We've seen a 38% increase year over year, and we predict that trend continuing. We currently have our foundation seed program applications open for growers to apply for free seed to be able to do native seed production within the state. We recently refilled our Nevada Department of Transportation position within our noxious weed program. This position reviews construction applications of NDOT projects to ensure that they have noxious weed and weed treatment compliance. We're seeing not quite the uptick that we anticipated with some of the federal funding for transportation activities, but it's still quite a bit of improvement. We've also started working with NDOT to include in their special provisions or their silver book some noxious weed requirements to ensure that noxious weed plans are not only required for construction projects, but also working with the other units as well, maintenance and landscaping. Our biocontrol program within the department works not only with our noxious weed, but with our state entomologist, and we have started a rearing project to increase the availability of some biocontrol agents. One of them is for Russian knapweed for producers that are interested in doing biological control. Our PCO and EPA program, an EPA program within the department also has a couple of other different segments. We recently received a grant from USGS, the United States Geological Service, to conduct surface water sampling on the Virginia River. We had done this on the Truckee and Carson, and this year we'll be doing it in the Virginia. This is where we put filters into the Virginia River that will stay in there for a month. Those filters will then be processed in our lab, our pesticide lab, to provide information back. We also recently hired Skylar Montigan for our sagebrush ecosystem technical team. This position has been open for quite a while, and we're very excited about his participation, and he has really hit the ground running. He will be working mostly on the credit projects and helping permittees that are applying for those credit projects, as well as coordination with our internal loop department doing noxious weeds and other sorts of things. So we're pretty excited about his commitment there. In our crops program, the specialty crop block grant, we just recently selected our 3 sub-awardees, and those information will be going out in the next week or so. Lots of strong applications. We received almost 4-fold of what we could give out when we received in specialty crops. So that program continues to see strong improvement. Our entomology team is currently working on hiring seasonals, dealing with the Mormon cricket and grasshopper, as well as their other normal quarantine and federal surveys and outreach. They also have conducted 2 invasive species workshops, one in Sparks and one in Las Vegas. And I think that is something that we'd like to continue. We didn't see strong participation this year, but it was one of the first times that we, particularly the department, has held those. And so I think we're going to continue to do that. As far as new and upcoming projects, As the director mentioned, we have been working to continually represent the department and industry in BLM and Forest Service related NEPA. For the Forest Service, we're currently engaged in their aerial application. EA will hopefully include, it'll be exclusively for aerial application. It will be both fixed wing, rotor, and drone. And it will include some of the new herbicides that are available and on the market to be able to be used on US Forest Service land. The department's also been engaged in the sage grouse EIS, the EIS, the resource RMP for the sage grouse programmatic came out yesterday. The notice came out, actually the full notice came out today. The department had provided cooperating agency comments during the cooperating agency stage. Those comments are available to, the documents are open to the public for a 90-day comment. Part of the sage grouse EIS also has designations of HCECs, areas of critical environmental concern. This is a different attempt. In the previous 2019 plans, they had the sagebrush focal areas, which were designations specifically for sage grouse protection. In this NEPA document, they are using ACECs as additional protection designations for, and that has a separate comment period for 60. And I'd be happy to give you that information, Dwayne, if you're interested in. But encourage engagement, or if you guys have questions, both the department will be making comments related to the sage grouse EIS as well as the sagebrush ecosystem technical team. We are also commenting, there's a current public comment period for the solar programmatic EIS. This is an 11 state EIS designating solar zones. In Nevada, our previous experience with the 2012 solar EIS and the solar energy zones, SECs, were designated in Nevada. I can't remember what the percentage, but it's between 80 and 90% of the solar projects that have been designated in Nevada have been variances that haven't been in the zones that were designated that programmatic activity. And so our concern is that a variance may continue within this programmatic activity, and that the designation currently in the preferred alternative is for 22 million acres west-wide, when the Bureau itself believes that the amount of solar that will be initiated between now and in the next 30 years will be 700,000 acres. And so there's a huge discrepancy between those two. So as the director mentioned, we are working with our counterparts within the state as well as other West-wide members to promote a more scalpeled approach of designating these areas for solar designations, whether that's in areas that are previously disturbed along corridors that are of transportation or other current infrastructure, so that we're not also just designating solar areas and then having to build miles and miles of infrastructure to connect those.
What's the name of that? So these guys can look at it.
This programmatic solar.
From the Smart from the Start.
Oh, yeah, sorry, the Smart from the Start alternative, and I'd be happy to share that, is something that started in Nevada and has definitely spread. And that Smart from the Start is that connecting the infrastructure in previously disturbed areas. Is supported by local governments and kind of started here from a local government perspective. And a lot of our local communities are very concerned about the impact of solar infrastructure. And so this is really, again, prescribing some very nuanced and scalpeled approach to be able to meet the demands that are required from the federal government, but then also meet the needs of rural communities. And one other thing is the department is also working, we had passed regulations a year and a half ago related to seed retailers, and we're continuing to promote, we'll be sending out some FAQs related to those seed retailer fees and who they apply to out, and those will be in our next nursery registrations. And I think that's it.
Thank you. Questions for Megan? I do have a couple. Are you aware of the solar projects proposed for Mason Valley, and what do they look like?
Go ahead.
So Director Goycochea, for the record, if they're on private land, we are not really engaging in that at this point because we don't see that cooperating agency status. We have worked with Department of Energy, and Bill has some concerns as well when it comes to some of the petroleum stuff, but that's where those are being run. So no, it's not. I will say that while we're not tracking it, we're aware of those in Mason. There are also some large areas in Diamond Valley that are being proposed as well. So we're keeping an eye on it, but we are not actively involved because there's not an active comment period on that. Anything that you want us to, take a look at, by all means, bring those to us. If we're looking at, we're going to have a problem with agriculture, we want to know about it up front, but we don't get those notices.
Okay, very good. There is one southeast of the valley that I would think would be on public land. Not sure would have much of an impact on.
I'll look into it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. The other one slipped my mind, I guess. What's the general status of the sage grouse population? How's that going?
So they're in decline. Yeah, and I think there is new research that is coming out and new mapping related to sort of the new Nevada map, which is still in draft, which is also part of the problem, is using some of those population modeling dynamics to be able to integrate some of that sort of stuff. And the clusters are supposed to help recognize where the core areas are related to sage grouse and the protections related to those. So I'm not a biologist, and I don't have a ton of background in their total populations, but the trends are down.
Mr. Chair, we are hopeful, Director Goycochea, that this winter and this spring will help with those, as they do with all things, even livestock. When we say what's good for the flock is, good for
the herd, good for the bird.
Good for the herd, good for the bird, and whatever, all those other ones you want to say. But last winter was hard on wildlife in general in the state of Nevada. I was encouraged by some numbers, that they said that those that, did survive the nest actually did well. That nesting was tough on those little hens. And look, the elephant in the room is, and it kind of falls, we're going to Chad next, but we have a predator problem, avian predator species. And Megan and I have worked on that, and that is something I missed in my update, that I did deliver comments on the new EA out of Nevada proposed for raven tape. I have never seen a document miss the mark as bad as that one did. It was, I'm just going to say it, I'll apologize on the record to U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service now. That was a piece of garbage, and they missed big time. We put a letter in about why did you do that? They missed the modeling. Then the modeling they had, they didn't use. They went back, 10 years instead of using current modeling on what those takes are. Until we address all of these impacts, we're selectively singling out some impacts, and I don't believe that's the right way to go about it. I don't know if Mr. Busselman got into the EIS any farther than I did last night. It's a very short document, but I don't think they really addressed it in there this time either. And so that is the problem. These ravens are a smart bird, and they have a huge impact on that population. And until we do something for them, we're here. Their numbers exponentially grow, and sage grouse exponentially declines. I'm not a biologist, but I can follow the two trend lines.
Okay, thank you. Other questions? Thanks, Megan. We'll move on to animal industry. Chad?
Thank you, Chad Sminovich. I'll start out with animal has not had a deputy administrator. It does work really hard to get a deputy administrator. We filled the position in January. This is Will Dawson, and very happy to have him here. It's helping out a lot. On pending matters of significance, NAC 571 revisions and edits have been done and sent in. Look for some workshops here in the near future. I have on here agricultural police officer in Las Vegas. We ended up transferring employee from Central Nevada, and so now we're reopening that up for the rest of the state. It should be a northern we're gonna open it up for more statewide than just centralized, hoping to get more applicants. Partnership activities, USDA, APHIS. JJ touched on traceability, the ID tags a little bit. I'll touch on them further on. Wild Horse Connection, they continue to do diversionary feedings in Virginia Range to draw horses away from highways and urban areas. Allison touched on the American Wild Horse Campaign. Thanks for doing that. She did a great job. Our livestock enforcement, they continue to patrol and enforce our agricultural and state laws throughout the state. They were a big help this winter with brand inspection and livestock ID. They helped out a lot, stepped in where they were needed. Our livestock identification brands, it was a busy winter. We were a little bit short-staffed, but they covered, and really happy with the job they did. Being short-staffed right now, we are hoping to fill a whole bunch of positions for brand inspectors. That should be happening quickly. We also have a program officer position available in Elko, and that is another one we're getting candidates in, hoping to fill that position quickly also. Throughout this quarter, NDA staff continue attending. We continue getting phone calls related to VRE horses. We continue attending meetings in federal, state, county, and city agencies to identify areas of the highest importance, which require the installation of fencing. Allison touched on that a little bit. Also, we're going to tie in with the city of Reno and continue that fence. We've identified 3 existing contracted vendors, so we should be able to get it done quickly, hopefully within the year. All funding for the fencing is sourced from the NDA Feral Horse and Management Project. With the park employees, predatory animal and rodent control, JJ touched on the raven issues. I want to touch on the starling issues. This winter was mild temperature-wise. Starlings did not migrate. I touched on it last board meeting. The director, under his authority, allocated a bulk purchase of Stardicide, the DRC 1339. He allocated another purchase earlier this winter, and it has been put out, and hopefully we put a dent in the starlings for the dairy. We also have a position open in the park in Fallon. Hopefully we can get that filled soon too. That'll be a big help with all the predators we're dealing with. Veterinary medical service. NDA continues to submit samples for sheep and goats to meet requirements for the National Stray Disease Eradication Program. Regarding the animal disease traceability, we have distributed over 12,000 EID tags. We put a hold on it because of the funding Dr. Goichi spoke about. So hopefully we can pick that back up once we find out the exact funding we have and start dealing those tags back out. The Animal Disease Lab has announced the new test for TRIC, the RNA PCR test. This new test will provide improved sensitivity, reduced overall costs associated with purchasing culture media, and simplifies specimen handled and stored. Is available in Sparks and Elko. The Elko lab has submitted its application to offer equine or Coggins. The lab has been inspected and approved by the USDA. So Elko lab open, trick testing, Coggins. Dairy, they continue to inspect and do their trainings. One big thing, the dairy lab went live with the new LIMS system, eliminating manual tracking and manual reporting. That's a plus. I want to touch again on the reopening of the Elko lab. It will expand access and support trick and Coggins testing. So big plus, happy to have it back open and going. Any questions for me before I ask on Shada?
Questions? Yes. Thank you, Chad. I appreciate it. I just, I guess maybe as much as a question, a comment on raven. You know, we hear a lot about ravens and sage grouse, tradition of sage grouse nests. What's going on right now with ravens is they also, the pinion jays are starting to nest right now, and the ravens, you see the same thing with, so you've got another kind of a keystone species out there that's in decline that is being impacted by the southern quarterly. You know, the ravens, they predate those pinyon jay nests, and when the pinyon jays are done, they move right on to the sage grouse, and I see it's interesting at the ranch. Pigeon jays moved back in pretty heavily into the trees about 2 weeks ago, and about 3-4 days ago, all the juvenile ravens showed up, and so it's not just sage grouse, and I appreciate the work that you guys are doing trying to get some sort of a sanity into the ability to deal with the raven. He's a, yeah. So it's not just sage grouse. It's the pinyon jay, which if we don't get sage grouse listed, they're going to come right after the pinyon jays next on the list for some of the litigators.
And if you want a copy of that letter, if anybody wants a copy of that letter I sent to Fish and Wildlife, let me know. I'll send it over to you. We shared it with the industry, with Doug and with cattlemen's, but for record.
Yeah.
If you want it, I'll send it to you.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Other questions? Okay, thank you. So we're going to, who's next?
Going to Shada, gonna, correct, that's where we're at.
Where we're going.
All right,
Keep moving.
You're gonna talk about 583.
All right, so before I move into the discussion of the proposed regulations, I would like to ask if there's any public comment on the regulation.
So she's gonna take this from you and go through her hearing process real quick.
All right.
Come back and let you close out, okay?
Okay, sounds good. Do we have,
Did you guys close public comment already? I'm so sorry. I jumped right in as soon as I could.
no, go ahead, Leanna.
I just want to thank Shada so much for all the work that she's done. I believe her whole heart is in protecting the Nevada industry and those that our livestock industry feeds. And the need for regulation is so important. Thank you, Shada.
Okay, thank you. Harold, did you have comment?
Yeah, do I need to go over there?
Yes, please. We want to limit it to 3 minutes.
Real personal, I'm a small cattle farmer in Mason Valley in Arrington. The regulations, just them talking about regulations on the custom kill and custom processing drove the custom processors in my area. They have their underground. It scares the hell out of them. It's the cost, some of them, one of the guys I know probably only does 8-10 beef a year or something. So the cost to them is gonna go crazy. Plus inspection, they worked in the meat processing before, so they know all the safety and they have all their stuff set up right. But the cost and the process, it's like anything tied to government. I'm in the organic program, which I'm dropping this year. I'm just sick and tired of the stuff. It just snowballs until you just say the hell with it, it's not worth it. But the other processor, literally, I talked to him about 4 times just to get him to even talk to me about it, because it just scares the hell out of him. And I'm thinking it's just gonna drive them underground. They're gonna do it already. I know the one guy is telling people, if he doesn't know him, he won't touch anything for him. He doesn't want to go there. It just scares him. And he knows if anybody's unhappy, then they have a way to get them, they'll go after them. They can't afford to do that. They're just small guys that don't have a lot of money, and they can't afford to build a $200,000 processing place. So anyway, that's it.
Thank you.
K, if she wants to, she wanted to comment in the beginning. Shining K, are you still on? Do you guys want to give public comment?
Heather Hall.
Any other public comment?
I can make my comment now.
Okay, please go ahead.
Okay, my name is Heather Hall. I live in Winnemucca, Nevada. And I just wanted to say I'm really pleased to hear our department is trying to make processing and sale of local meats and poultry more accessible in Nevada. I think it's a huge need. I am a registered dietitian, and from that angle, I know that Nevada residents are really interested in having more access to locally produced meats and poultries. They want to support their local ranchers and farmers and buy direct from them. They want to know where their food is coming from. However, we also know Nevada is a very rural state, a lot less populated than in a lot of other places. And so that kind of presents us with some unique challenges. So my family also raises beef cattle and poultry here in Winnemucca. And I just want to share kind of a concrete example of some of the challenges that we have come across as we have tried to fill the need in our area for local food. So in the past, selling our beef directly to consumers has been really difficult because, number one, the market of local customers in this rural area is just too small to support all of the costs involved with obtaining all of the permits and the USD processing and all of the costs that build up. In order to sell the beef, first of all, I have to pay roughly 50% more per animal to have it processed USDA inspection, which adds about $500 to the processing fees of each of our beefs that we process. The closest USDA processor to us is a 2-hour drive away. And we use Fallon Livestock Processing. They do a wonderful job, but it is a bit of a drive for us. I have to obtain also a warehouse permit once I have that beef processed in order to store that beef in my freezer. From what I understand, that freezer also has to be NSF endorsed, which is expensive. So I can't just put it in a cheap chest freezer. I have to get like a $10,000 freezer to store my beef in. It does not stop there. So to sell then at the farmer's market, I also have to get a permit that costs me $50 per farmer's market. And then possibly some other permits. I am not totally clear on this because our product does require temperature control. So by this point, I've paid around $2,500 for a fat steer heifer, $1,500 to process it USDA, $10,000 for a freezer to store it in, $1,200 in permits, and a few $100s in travel to and from the processor. So I can't sell this meat at a price to our local community that's accessible for most people by this point.
Heather,
yes?
I apologize to cut you off, but we need to keep public comment to 3 minutes.
Okay, what am I at?
3 minutes.
Okay.
Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
So,
Any others?
other public comment?
Is there anyone else online that would like to provide public comment? All right, if we have no one else online that wants to provide public comment. Oh.
If somebody else in the room.
Yes.
For the record, I'm Doug Busselman with the Nevada Farm Bureau. We were very active in the workshop process and attended all of the workshops that were held around the state. We want to express our appreciation to Shada and to the department for hosting those workshops everywhere that they were provided. I think that was very helpful to give people the opportunity to give input. We also provided input to the proposed regulations. One of our main concerns had to do with the pricing that was associated with the process for licensing and the inspection process of plans that a facility would bring forward. Part of our concern is that originally all of those facilities were all being assessed at the same rate. And we had requested there to be some differentiation between the different sectors. And some of that did occur. And I think that was positive. I think we still have some concerns over the pricing associated for the custom facilities and mobile facilities. But there has been some progress made. I think as we go forward, we're going to learn what degree of participation we'll see. And I think that participation level will also have an influence on the overall program's operation. And I think hopefully we can revisit some of this as need be going forward if there are some issues that need to be dealt with. We are very eager to get something going for a state inspection program. I also think that getting legitimate regulations in place is also critical. Right now, you've been kind of piggybacking off of the Department of Health's regulations through a memorandum of agreement. And so I think having your own set of regulations makes things a lot more legitimate. And I think that will be a benefit as well. So thank you for providing the opportunities we've been given, and we look forward to continuing to work the program going forward.
Thank you for your comments. Any other public comment?
Yes, this is Pete Paris for the record. Can I give one?
Yes, go ahead, Pete.
Yes, I'd like to commend the Nevada Department of Ag for, this is the best system they've had here for quite a while. It's been perfect today to understand and to see better. So I would just like to comment who's ever's responsible for that, JJ. Thank you.
My IT staff, they continue to remind me, Pete, that the first meeting I had was in this room. And Doug laughed about it this morning. I told him that thing gets fixed. And in a year, we have a new system because I can't hear any better than you. It comes from having dads that told us how to do things a little too loudly, maybe.
Well, it's been really good. That's all I can tell you.
Yes, it's been working very well. So do we have to adjourn this meeting to open this one? Just move right into
Since that we're into it right now, Mr. Chair, so you will turn it over to Shada for item 3 under that adoption hearing. She will continue on, and then we will have one more public comment on the hearing itself. Then we'll ask the board if they have any input. I will take action as the director, then we'll come back and do one more public comment and roll call for you and be done.
Okay.
So we're here.
Very good. Shada, would you like to go ahead?
So as I move into the discussion of the regulations today, I would like to say that for a state to be able to develop and administer their own meat and poultry inspection program, the state must operate in a manner and with authorities that are at least equal to the federal inspection program. This program is a fee-based program, as we did not receive general funding, and this was taken into consideration as we reviewed our fees. The proposed fee program is based on the costs that the department would incur in order to operate a meat and poultry inspection program in the state of Nevada. This program takes into special consideration the cost of ensuring that Nevada's citizens are provided with a safe meat and poultry inspection program that focuses on the public's health and safety. Can everyone see that all right? Let's zoom in a bit. So beginning with section 1, I'm going to begin. Section 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 11 add new definitions that are important for meat and poultry inspection. These are definitions that we need to have as we were adding revisions to the regulations. beginning with section 12. Section 12 establishes the permit requirement for anyone who wishes to operate an official establishment. It provides for which information that they need to provide with their permit application. It provides for the requirement of a plan review. They need to submit plans for the construction of their official establishment. This plan needs to include the layout, the arrangement, and construction materials for the official establishment, the location, the size, and types of equipment that will be in and used within the establishment, the surrounding areas of the official establishment, including other businesses, streets, outside equipment, animal pens, wells, and septic tanks. There is a fee of $750 for the review of plans submitted. And upon receipt of an application for a permit and a review of the plan review, the officer will issue a permit to the applicant. The permit will be good for a year until December 31st of the year that the permit was issued, and there will be an annual renewal fee of $500. The initial fee is also $500. If there is a change of ownership or a change of location, there must be a new application for a permit submitted. Section 13 provides for regulations for custom or mobile processing. This is for the licensing of the custom or processing establishment or mobile processing unit. They must apply for a license on a form prescribed by the department. They need to include any information as requested, such as name of the business, mailing address, contact information, the location that they will be doing business at. For custom processing, there will be a fee of $250. And they will need to also submit a plan review, which goes over the construction of the custom processing establishment or their mobile processing unit, the layout, arrangement, and construction of materials used, location for the fixed facility, and as applicable, the surrounding areas of the custom processing establishment or mobile processing unit. Because a custom processor or mobile unit is not required to submit a HACCP plan as an official establishment would, their plan review fee would be $600. Once their application is reviewed and approved and their plan has been approved, they will be issued a license. This license expires on December 31st of which year it was issued, and it needs to be renewed annually. The renewal fee for a license as such is $250. And again, if there's any kind of change of ownership or location, they will need to submit a new application for a license. And those that operate with a license for custom processing or mobile unit shall be inspected minimally on an annual basis. Section 14 provides for what must be done if the holder of a permit or a license wishes to remodel, renovate, or alter their approved establishment, and the fees as associated. Section 15 provides for the issuance of a permit or license, and the department shall send written notice to the permittee or licensee as applicable to go over their eligibility. For an official establishment, they will be issued a provisional grant of inspection so that they may validate their hazard analysis critical control plan, which is a requirement of Title IX of the Code of Federal Regulations under Part 417. This section also requires that for someone to be issued inspection services for a permit or license, they have to develop standard operating procedures, written sanitation standard operating procedures, and recall procedures. Section 16 goes over the construction of a mobile processing unit. The goal is to maintain a clean and sanitary condition of the mobile processing unit. A mobile processing unit can have a water tank as approved by the department with a minimum capacity of 40 gallons for poultry processing or 10 gallons per head of livestock. But if they're not able to outfit their unit with a water tank, they can use water on source on site. And they must have immediate access to this water source if they choose to use a water source on site as a mobile unit. Before they are able to use the water source on site, they need to obtain a signed statement from the property owner certifying that the water is safe for use. And this signed statement must be submitted to the department before the mobile unit can use this water source. A mobile unit must have a wastewater recovery tank or a method as approved by the department to catch blood and waste when performing slaughter activities outside of the unit as needed to avoid the contamination of any water sources or runoff onto adjacent properties. A mobile unit must have appropriate hand washing facilities provided with hot and cold and or warm running water, soap and individual sanitary towels or other approved hand drying devices. And these facilities must be kept in a clean condition and in good repair. And there must be access to a toilet facility. A mobile unit will be required to have a lifting mechanism that is capable of lifting a carcass an appropriate amount of height off the ground. This lifting mechanism must be located in a place where the carcass suspended from it does not touch the mobile processing unit, whether it's a truck or trailer body that is part of the mobile unit. Section 17 of this regulation goes a little more in depth about the water usage for a mobile processing unit. Additionally, it goes over how a sanitization container must be filled and kept during operations. It also provides for how wastewater must be disposed of. Section 18 of this regulation goes into how equipment and utensils used in a mobile processing unit must be kept. Ultimately, they have to be kept in a manner that keeps them clean. They must be thoroughly cleaned, and they cannot be kept in a manner that would adulterate food products. Section 19 of this regulation covers the transportation of a carcass in a mobile unit. Once the slaughter process evisceration has completed, the carcass must be placed under refrigeration and transported appropriately. Carcasses that are being transported in a mobile unit cannot contact one another or the floor or any part of the mobile unit. And this is just to ensure that no adulteration happens during the transportation process. Section 20 of this regulation relates to a mobile processing unit and the standards that they need to follow. The mobile processing unit must be cleaned thoroughly between each slaughter site or day, whichever occurs first. It goes a little more in depth of how surfaces and equipment need to be cleaned and sanitized in a mobile unit. It provides for cleaning frequencies of such utensils and equipment that are documented in the sanitation standard operating procedure of the mobile unit. Additionally, it provides for employee cleanliness or operator cleanliness. It also covers for the area surrounding the mobile processing unit and how it must be kept in a clean and sanitary condition to avoid any kind of adulteration, water runoff. Section 21 of this regulation also goes in depth about transportation of carcasses and storage of carcasses, loading, unloading. Section 22 of this regulation provides for which sections of the Title IX of the Code of Federal Regulations are required to be complied with for custom processors. Section 23 of this regulation covers how animals need to be tagged. Section 24 goes over what an inspector must do if they see any kind of insanitary condition or something that could potentially adulterate edible product. Section 25 allows for the department to detain or embargo any meat or poultry in a processing establishment or mobile processing unit for which a license was issued if the meat or poultry does not have proper identification or it does not comply with the requirements of this chapter. Section 26 of this regulation provides for compliance with the Humane Methods of Slaughter Act of 1978. 21 USC 458A1 and Title IX of the Code of Federal Regulations 381, Section 65B as applicable. It also provides for a custom processing establishment or mobile processing unit that slaughters poultry and that they must follow good commercial practices for the slaughter of poultry. Section 27 of this regulation covers the records that must be kept for anyone engaging in these activities. Section 28 of this regulation provides for the department to issue a written warning to anyone who holds a license for a custom processing establishment or mobile processing unit. It also provides for suspension of a license if the licensee is suspected of repeated violations. Section 29 of this regulation also covers suspension of a license. The department can suspend a license if it has reason to believe that an imminent public health hazard exists, or that the custom processing establishment or mobile processing unit of a licensee is insanitary such that any carcass that would be processed there would be adulterated or contaminated. If the department finds insanitary conditions, insanitary practices, adulterated products, or misbranded products in a custom processing establishment, the suspension of a license must comply with the applicable rules of practice in Title IX of the Code of Federal Regulations, Part 500. That Section 29 also provides for what needs to be done if a licensee has been suspended pursuant to subsection 1 and for reinstatement. Section 30 of this regulation amends NAC 583, section 010. It provides for some language updates. Section 31 of this regulation amends NAC 583, Section 020 to provide clarification on the type of establishment to be an official establishment. It also removes reference to the Board of Health and instead references the department. Section 32 of this regulation amends NAC 583, Section 030 to provide a little bit more clarification for meat and poultry. Instead of division, it is a program, and for compliance with the United States Department of Agriculture. Section 33 amends NAC 583, Section 040 to include poultry products. Section 34 amends NAC 583, Section 050 to also add poultry or poultry food products. Additionally, it removes reference to the state health officer and instead references the state quarantine officer. It removes reference to the Board of Health and includes reference to the department, meaning the Department of Agriculture. Section 35 amends NAC 583, Section 070 to add reference to the United States Department of Agriculture. Again, Section 36 amends NAC 583, Section 231 to add reference to the United States Department of Agriculture. Section 37 amends NAC 583, Section 350 to add poultry and poultry food products. And to provide clarification on the United States Department of Agriculture. Section 38 amends NAC 583, Section 370 to remove reference to the Board of Health and instead references the department. Section 39 amends NAC 583, Section 380 to add poultry and to provide for the humane handling and sanitary conditions of all official establishments, custom processing, or mobile processing units. Section 40 amends NAC 583, Section 390 to provide clarification on the types of establishment that an inspector must have access to. It's for the official establishment, the custom processing establishment, or mobile processing unit. It provides for how items must be stamped, Nevada inspected and passed, for products to be used in intrastate commerce. Section 41 of this regulation amends NAC 583, Section 400 to provide clarification for an official establishment ensuring that an antemortem examination is made of all animals offered for slaughter. It provides for what must be done if an animal that is presented for slaughter is suspected of being affected with any disease or shows symptom of disease. Section 42 amends NAC 583, Section 410 to add poultry, and then provides clarification on the language for the marking and stamping of products. It also provides for what must be done if any meat or poultry product which is not fit for human consumption is found. Section 43 amends NAC 583, Section 420 to add poultry. Section 44 amends NAC 583, Section 430 to also add poultry and poultry food products. It provides clarification on the type of establishment that this section covers to be an official establishment. It provides for which sections of NAC 583 a custom processing establishment or mobile processing unit is subject to, and that they must be kept in a clean and sanitary condition during all periods of operation. It allows for the department to prescribe additional sanitary standards and require sanitary inspections of custom processing establishments or mobile processing units. Additionally, it also allows for the officer of the department to withdraw inspection services from any custom processing establishment or mobile processing unit that the officer or department deems does not comply with the appropriate sanitary standards. Section 45 amends NAC 583, section 440 to add poultry and poultry food product. It provides clarification on the type of establishment that this section covers to be an official establishment. It was also amended to add the Poultry Product Inspection Act. It provides for how a custom processing product must be labeled. These products must be labeled not for sale. And shipping containers of poultry also must be labeled appropriately. Section 46 amends NAC 583, section 450 to add poultry and poultry food product to the section. It provides clarification on the type of establishment that it is regarding to be an official establishment. This section does not allow for any carcass, animal, meat food product, poultry or poultry food product that was prepared outside of the provisions of NAC 583, section 211 to section 500 to enter or be inspected at any official establishment. Section 47 amends NAC 583, section 460. This goes a little more in depth on official marks and labeling. And it adds that no one may offer for sale or transportation any meat food product, poultry or poultry foods product unless they're labeled accordingly. Section 48 amends NAC 583, section 470. It adds language for the official establishment, a custom processing establishment, or mobile processing unit. It also adds poultry and poultry food products to this section. Section 49 amends NAC 583, section 480 to remove reference to the Board of Health and instead references the department or the officer. And it provides reference to NRS 583, section 543. Section 50 amends NAC 583, section 490 to include poultry and poultry food product in the section. And it also provides reference to the Poultry Products Inspection Act. Section 51 amends NAC 583, section 510 to provide clarification on the Secretary of Agriculture in the United States Department of Agriculture and cooperative efforts. It provides for which section of the Federal Meat Inspection Act. Section 52 amends NAC 583, section 520. This section provides for which federal regulations are adopted by reference. Section 53 amends NAC 583, section 530 to include poultry and poultry food products to this section. This section also adopts by reference any exemptions that are provided in section 623 of the Federal Meat Inspection Act and section 464 of the Poultry Product Inspection Act. And then 583, section 300, officer defined was repealed. And that would conclude the regulations that are proposed. I'd like to open up if there's any questions.
I'd like to make a couple comments if I can. First, I want to thank Sheeta. As Leanna said, she's put a yeoman's effort into this, and we appreciate it very much. Doug and I have had a lot of meetings with her in the office to go over the proposed changes. We heard industry, as Mr. Busselman said. We made changes that we felt appropriate to that. As a director and as an agency, I am committed to continuing to work on those as this program gets off the ground. We know that we're going to have to tweak this over the next few years. We understand that. We've got to get started. It's been a long time in coming. For the board, I appreciate you guys listening to those changes that she went through. There's one reason we went through this, and it's because I heard you guys a year ago. You want to be more involved. You want to know what this department is doing. Here it is. Could we have done this hearing very similar fashion to what we did for Bill? Yeah, we could have. That didn't rise to this level. It was some pretty clean housekeeping stuff. This is a big step for the Department of Agriculture. And we want to know what you guys think. We want to know your comments. And that's why we did this in this board sitting today. It was because, again, we want to be transparent and we want this board to be involved and we want to hear from you. So now is your opportunity as board members. Let Shada know if there's questions, if there's comments, whatever. And we will continue to move forward on this. It is a priority of the governor's and it is a priority of mine. And that is why we hit the throttle. We're very fortunate, as I said, to have Shada pick this up and run with it because I wasn't going to get it done. I'll be honest. And with that, I'll turn it back over to you guys. Questions, comments that you have for Shada or myself or the department.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman. For
Sure.
When they were discussing the water on site being used, and is that just based on the person's word that the water is good, or is there any testing that goes into that?
So the water that is being used on site is for custom processing. So the mobile unit is coming to someone's facility, someone's land, and they're going to operate and slaughter their animals for them. So they're certifying that their water is safe enough to be used for their own animals.
Okay.
And so it would be a self-certification. I would hope, I would press that producers are testing their water and making sure that their water is safe, because ultimately these products are for their family and we all want to keep our families safe. But it is a self-certification that they would have to sign, provide to the mobile unit, and then the mobile unit has to provide it to the department so that we have it on record that this water was approved for use for their own products.
Thank you. Heather, all that into that, it gets back to what Daryl's public comment was. We know they're doing it now, and we know they're doing it now. And so we would hope again that it's clean and it's done correctly. And this was one of those conversations that we had in my office. Are we going to require some kind of testing? I don't want to drive this underground.
Right.
So self-certify. Let's get it done. The lifting mechanism, we heard that I'm not going to build a hoist on the back of my pickup to go do this. Okay, you can use a lifting mechanism that is appropriate by that owner. Is it a tractor? Is it a backhoe of some kind? We can use that. That is why we put that language in there. We don't want to drive it underground. We have made the flexibility built into this so that we can continue to operate. I ate a lot of meat that was hung on the back of a backhoe as a kid, and I used a garden hose to wash it out. And I'm happy to sign that's what I'm going to use.
Sure. I have one question. Have we budgeted for additional employees for us to do this job and to monitor it?
Yes, we've budgeted for additional employees. We've budgeted for inspectors. I would like to have minimally an inspector in each one of our offices. I will be trained as an inspector so I can stand in and travel around the state as needed. I want to be reachable and I want to be helpful for industry.
Thank you. Other questions?
We have a question online from Carrie. She said, I would like to hear clarification on the state inspection having the not for sale on the label. I understood, and please correct me if I am wrong, that the state inspections would allow us to sell in state without the USDA inspection.
Yes, so if it's under state inspection, it would get labeled with a state stamp for interstate commerce. It's only if you are doing a custom processing animal, this animal would be stamped with not for sale.
Other questions, comments? Pardon, go ahead.
So piggybacking off of that question, that was a question I had too. So is there an avenue then for people to like be processing under the, like for poultry, for example, under the like 1,000 bird exemption to process ourselves with this?
So USDA's poultry exemptions will still exist, and producers would be able to apply for that exemption and work under that exemption. And I'm happy to help anyone who is interested in that exemption explore it more and work with USDA to receive that exemption.
Okay.
Okay, more questions? Yes, Mr. Combs.
Dwayne Coombs, so help me understand, and I'm trying to get to the comment here with so it seems to me like we've got an inspection for intrastate sale. And then basically the custom processing, how much is that going, how much do these regulations change what we're doing now for those custom processors?
So all the regulations that are regarding custom processing are things that custom processors should already be doing. They should be keeping accurate records. They should be operating in a sanitary manner. They should be keeping their utensils clean and in good repair, their facilities clean and in good repair. These regulations just provide a place to come see what needs to be done. Say you're someone wanting to get into the game, you're new, you haven't done it too long, you want to be legit, you want to see it all written out in front of you. These are just to provide clarification. These are all things that custom processors should already be doing if they're producing safe, wholesome products.
So this wouldn't affect a current custom processor, or do they have a license process now?
Yes.
Will this change that, and how much?
It doesn't change the licensing process much. If you already have a license currently, you would just renew it. You don't have to do a plan review if you're already licensed. The plan review is just for folks that are starting new. We as a department, we want to make sure that your facility is going to develop safe, clean product. If you are someone who's already licensed right now as a custom processor, the only time you would have to go through a plan review is if you're knocking your building down and building a new one, or you're adding a big extension. If you're making minor renovations for the flow of your facility, you're just trying to update your facility, you don't need to go through a plan review.
So, and then these regs will allow us to get set up where we can have state inspectors inspect carcass so that we can sell that.
Yeah, so it will set up for the state to have inspectors that inspect as USDA does. It is an at least equal to program, so we have to follow what USDA does. And if we follow what USDA requires, USDA gives us basically permission to inspect for commerce products.
Okay, but that does not force a custom processor into that category at this point. That's kind of where I'm trying to go to, because some of our custom processors are worried that, oh, now I'm going to have to meet they don't have to meet additional if they want to continue in business as usual?
Not at all. If they're already doing custom processing is custom processing. State inspection is state inspection. The two are separate from one another, but they're under the same program because it's all meat and poultry. And, you know, if you do know that there are people that are having these concerns, I welcome you to share my information with them and they can come meet with me. I can go meet with them. I'm happy to talk it through with them because I understand that regulations can be scary, they can be concerning. And I want to make sure that I can stomp out those fears, stomp out those concerns, and make sure that we're all just working on the same goal of safe, wholesome food for Nevadans.
Perfect, thank you. I just want to get all that kind of on the record, so.
Daryl, does that help your concerns?
Not totally. I
Does
think,
it help?
well, the regulations for the basic meat stuff, especially for the interstate and all that, I think it's great. It's just the custom kill, some of the stuff, even with the transporting it from the ranch to their processing center. The only one that, and I don't even know if they can do it, is the new one that the extension built. The local guys can't transport it refrigerated from the ranch to their processing place. They can't do all that stuff. They don't, they can't, the carcass can't touch the other carcass. They'll take two beef and stick it in one deal and take it there. They know which half's which, or which, you know, which beef's which, but they can't. I mean, you'd have to build a whole nother rig to do that, the way I understand what you were saying. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
Sheena, didn't we change that, correct?
Yeah, just they have to get it under some sort of refrigeration and then transport it as soon as possible.
Within a time period, right?
Just
It is
after evisceration. So after evisceration, it has to be put under refrigeration and then transported.
Yeah, that's the thing. They can't refrigerate it to then transport. It's not possible. They have to transport it to get it to the refrigerator.
I do have a comment online from Shining K Meats. She said Shining K Meats did just finish building an MPU that checks these boxes.
I'm sure.
we can't hear you.
I'm sorry. Shining K Meats did just finish building an MPU that checks these boxes.
Okay. Do we have someone else on the video?
I do have two more questions online as well. Will the mobile processing have access to state inspection options? And will the state inspection include the time of slaughter or just the carcass inspection?
So as of right now, with the way that NRS is written, mobile processing can only be done at a custom capacity. That's something that I would be happy to explore in the future once I'm able to do. But at this moment, a mobile unit can only operate under custom. And then, so the state inspection will include the time of slaughter and carcass inspection. It will be just as if a USDA inspector is inspecting. They come in, they do their ante-mortem inspection, they do their post-mortem inspection, they watch the kill floor, they do the final carcass check. And then once you're on the processing side of things, they come in for the periodic inspection, do the activities that they need to do, and lead from that. And again, the state inspection is like USDA inspection.
Did you have another comment on that? Okay, any other questions or comments? Yes, Doug?
I think one of the questions, to Dwayne's point, officially, how many custom slaughter facilities are licensed at this moment in Nevada?
This moment in Nevada, I believe there's about 13 to 14 that are currently licensed in the state of Nevada.
So I think that there are some who are licensed. There are others who are currently operating as custom operators who aren't licensed. So for them, this is going from nothing to something rather significant.
So, but they're gonna continue to, if they're underground now, we can't drive them underground, right?
Thank you, Dwayne. That's been my argument the
You
whole
know,
time.
I've got a guy down the street that does it underground. And I wouldn't take something to him because it scares the heck out of me. But how can we drive him? Are we gonna drive him further underground? He's already underground. That's kind of where
To that end, there are regulations in place currently that deal with those guys that are underground. And they could be issued a ticket from a local municipality, health, or us. This is bringing it all under one. And you don't see us out there driving around knocking on their door, issuing them tickets. I'll let it rest at that.
Other questions or comments from the board?
Justin Johnson online would be adopting the generic sponge test as well as the trim grind samples at the same frequency.
As USDA requires it, we have to require it as well. Additionally, since we adopted their regulations by reference to appropriately meet their at least equal to program, whatever testing requirements they have, we must also have.
Okay. Other questions? If not, I will entertain a motion to approve when you're ready.
Mr. Chair, I'll make the motion to approve these new regs.
Thank you.
And I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say no. Okay, the motion carries. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, as the state quarantine officer, as referenced in these regulations as well, based upon your adoption, and as a state quarantine officer, I would ask Shada to please prepare the packet for the commission and proceed to get these regulations formally adopted and put into place as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, before we adjourn, we'll move on to public comment. Is there any other public comment? If not, final roll call. Is everybody still here that was here when we started?
I'm not.
Do you have a people join?
Yeah,
please. I have a statement, please, if you don't mind. It's Leanna. I might get choked up here. Nevada is traditionally steeped in our industry, and we must move forward and embrace the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Did you have something?
Carrie Breff with Breff Ranch. I just want to state that I'm grateful to hear that the Nevada Department of Ag is taking an initiative to continue to provide Nevada with clean, safe, and healthy beef into our economy. I hope as you make these decisions, you will keep in mind not only the consumer, but the producer. Thank you for putting these on today.
Any other public comment? Okay. Now, final roll call. What do we do? Ask everybody to.
Everybody's still here,
No.
I think.
We only had one person join and I have their name already, so we're good.
Okay, very good. The motion to adjourn. So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.